Hi, and thank you for joining me for another video. Today, friends, we're going to speak about Ahavat Yisrael, loving Jews. What does that mean and how is it accomplished? Now, the reason this video is so important is that many, in an attempt to fulfill the mitzvah of Ahavat Yisrael, ultimately end up spreading hate. You're probably wondering, how can someone in an attempt to do good actually end up doing bad? Well, friends, ultimately, it's due to bad leadership. In this case, they're rabbis. So how is Ahavat Yisrael understood today? Well, if you ask this question to a modern day rabbi, he would tell you that Ahavat Yisrael means that you have to love every Jew unconditionally. Well, that sounds nice. Is it true? No, friends, that's the incorrect answer. Now, before you change the channel, give me a chance, hear me out. I can assure you that I'm not a hate monger, and the reason this video is so important is that the quicker we learn how to fulfill the mitzvah of Ahavat Yisrael, the quicker we can begin to reap the matanos of this mitzvah. Now, the first place in Torah Shebiksav that this mitzvah appears is in Parshas Kadoshim, right? It says, love your neighbor as yourself. What does that mean, and who does this apply to? Well, in the same pasuk it says, among your people. But does that mean anyone today who claims to be ethnically Jewish? Well, the rabbis today will say yes. And if they have a Jewish mother, you must love them. First, you must understand that there is no halachic source that teaches that we have to love wicked or secular Jews. I'm sure there are many rabbis that teach it, but it's not brought down in halacha. And the reason the rabbis teach it is because they have gotten stuck on first stage thinking, and as a result only have increased hatred within and outside of the Jewish community. Why is it first stage thinking? Well, think about it. What kind of system that claims to be ethical decides who it shows love to solely on the basis of a person's family tree? Friends, a system like that could never be considered ethical, and today I'm here to show you how it's not halachic either. So ultimately, what does neighbor mean? Because we just said it doesn't mean secular or wicked Jew. Friends, neighbor only means God-fearing, mitzvah-keeping Jews. In other words, people who have refined and trained themselves ethically enough to live up to the title of Jew. Because you can't even begin to love your neighbor till you begin to hate your enemy. In this case, the enemies of God. Now, the word hate in Judaism has a different connotation than in the secular world. In Judaism, hating someone includes the idea of tochacha, rebuking them with the hope that they would see the error of their ways and come to the right path. Even in the Mishnah it states, who is a hero of heroes? They answered, not one who defeats his enemies, but one who turns an enemy into a friend. So, what does loving your neighbor as yourself mean? Friends, it means loving other religious people, loving those who love God. Like David HaMelech says, I hate those who hate you. So, ultimately, hate for the wicked so we can love the neighbor properly. Now, you're thinking, Asher, those are harsh words. No one should talk to another Jew like that. And this, my friends, is the main reason we're not fulfilling the mitzvah of Ahavat Yisrael. Why? Because we've fallen into the avera of chanufa, flattery, calling something unholy holy, or treating unholy people how the holy should be treated. And when we do this, we end up mistreating the holy, just like when Chazal say that those who are kind to the cruel will end up being cruel to the kind. And this actually makes me remember a story once I heard about the Satmar Rebbe, that once he was giving tochacha, rebuke to another yid, and someone told him, Rebbe, why so much? Isn't this already Lashon Hara? And the Satmar Rebbe responded, you're very familiar with the halachas of Lashon Hara because of the Chafetz Chaim Sefer. But if you wrote a Sefer on the halachas of Chanufa, that Sefer would be 3 times as thick. And every time, my friends, we shower irreligious Jews with the love reserved for the observant, we only solidify their position as irreligious Jews. Why? Because we show them that in Judaism, blood towers ethics. Because I'm sure your rabbi has told you that the reason we have to love other Jews is because the temple was destroyed because of sinas chinim, baseless hatred. Have you ever asked the rabbi, what does that mean? They'll tell you that the temple was destroyed because we didn't love each other, because of a lack of Ahavat Yisrael. Well, if they mean that we didn't love the righteous enough because we didn't hate the wicked properly, they're right. But unfortunately, that's not what they mean. They mean that Today we have to love every ethnic Jew, whether wicked or righteous, unconditionally, which is a stupid idea. And also it's a bit disingenuous because this is the only part of the Gemara that most rabbis quote when referring to why we merited the atrocities committed by Rome. Because actually the idea of baseless hatred being the sole reason the temple was destroyed is an idea taken completely out of context with the goal of making us into hippies. How? Friends, there are many more sources brought down in Chazal on why Jerusalem and the temple was destroyed that give us a better idea on what we did wrong so we can fix it. Friends, here is a list of other reasons brought down by the Talmud. 1, because Jews were not keeping Shabbos. 2, for not reciting the Shema. 3, for not educating our children in Torah. 4, for not being ashamed of each other when we committed abominations. 5, because the small and the great were made equal. In other words, they were treating the righteous like the wicked and the wicked like the righteous, which is just what is happening today. 6, because they did not rebuke each other. 7, because scholars were despised therein. And finally, 8, it states that the temple and Jerusalem was destroyed because of Chanufa, because of flattery. Now, with all this information, we can begin to understand how sinas chinim, baseless hatred, in other words, amorality, not caring enough to explain why you're doing evil, was the ultimate reason for the temple's destruction. And Ahavat Yisrael is not the solution, but rather not watering down Judaism. It's akin to the idea of how Europeans, after the atrocities of World War II, did not learn that fighting evil was a virtue, but unfortunately rather learned that fighting was evil. In the same manner, Jews, instead of learning to hate the evil in order to truly love the good, instead learned that hating was evil. And the way to prevent future catastrophes was to shower every ethnic Jew with unconditional love. First of all, the concept of unconditional love does not exist in Judaism. As a matter of fact, God does not love you or I unconditionally. If I could find a better word suited to describe God's relationship with us, is the word care. He cares for you only in the potential we have to want to keep his mitzvahs. And then when we do, he loves us. And like I mentioned in my last video, that being religious means emulating the Almighty. So to push away and rebuke the wicked while at the same time caring for them and hoping that they would turn around and come to the right path. Now you're wondering, Asher, where is this in Halacha? But it's brought down in Chazal. Love your neighbor like yourself in Torah mitzvahs, which means like you in Torah mitzvahs. So if this person keeps Torah mitzvahs, you love him. And if he doesn't, you don't. It's actually brought down in the Ketzer Shulchan Aruch. It's here. V'rafta l'recha kamocha. Love your neighbor as yourself. Ani Hashem, I am God. Matam, for what reason? Ki ani risav. Because I, God, have created him. And if he keeps the laws of your people, you must love him. If not, you should not love him. Ketzer Shulchan Aruch. Now, you see why this is so important, friends. Because when you tell people that they're entitled to be loved or entitled for anything, not because of what they believe or how they behave, what you create, my friends, is an ingrate. The idea of because I exist, I deserve is responsible for the huge decline in Torah observance in the Jewish world today. And this is another reason why this video is so important, because Jewish outreach organizations have become infected with this kind of thinking, the concept of blood worship. And I remember when I used to work in Yerushalayim, I used to see drunk birthright kids throwing up in Ben Yehuda and Jewish American girls who came on a religious scholarship dressed slutty down the streets of Yerushalayim. Friends, while I know thousands of non-Jews who love Hashem and Torah mitzvahs and are kicked to the side by these outreach rabbis, right? These people love Torah. They love a Kodesh Baruch Hu, right? Or how people in Latin America who want nothing more than to join Klal Yisrael through conversion are not even allowed into synagogues to pray, while secular Jews are welcomed and pampered by these religious fools. Why? Because of Chanufa. Because, like Chazal stated, they have been kind to the cruel and it made them cruel to the kind. Not to mention, it made the state of Israel outlaw all conversions in Latin America. The chutzpah. This reminds me of the time I made a video about how a cop killer by the name of Martin Grossman, who happened to have had a Jewish mother, should die in the electric chair. I had every Jew calling me a Jew hater, telling me that I had an obligation to love every Jew, even a cop killer. Do you hear how foolish we've become? When according to halacha, this individual should not even be considered a Jew. So in their attempt to undo the sin of sinas chinam, baseless hatred, actually has them committing it again through their amorality, because the sin wasn't that it was hatred, friends. The sin was that it was baseless. Now, don't get me wrong, we should makar secular Jews, but not through flattery, but through rebuke, so as to bolster up Torah. And if they choose to return, they should do so respectfully and sincerely, not through bribery from the rabbis, my friends. And we should stop abusing potential converts, who in God's opinion already hold the status of pious Jews. Why? Because this is a new phenomenon, friends, that we never experienced in Jewish history, of having people who want nothing more than to be Jewish and can't be because of the rabbis' prejudices. Friends, this has never existed. Actually, according to halacha, conversion was supposed to take 1 day, but now it takes even up to 3 years, while secular Jews are whisked in. Why? Because of bloodlust. Now, friends, you're wondering, how do I know these potential converts hold the status of pious Jews in God's eyes? Why? Because the Rambam states that the Torah is the inheritance of the congregation of Jacob, and to all those who desire to convert from among the nations. And this is how we learn the Rishonim. Every word is important, right? He clearly says desires, because even at his time, there were individuals who were abusing potential gerim. And again, don't consider me a hate monger. I do this because I care for secular Jews and I want them to do tshuva. Like Rav Ari Kaplan said in the name of the Kedushas Levi, that if you care for a friend, you will rebuke him. And if you truly hate them, you won't. So there is no mitzvah to love non-religious Jews, but rather the mitzvah is to rebuke them with the hope that they do tshuva. And the mitzvah of Ahavat Yisrael is to love Torah Jews. So go out and do something nice for them and tell them how you appreciate their commitment to the Almighty. And at the same time, you'll be driving the irreligious to jealousy, having them wonder, what must I do to be loved? Friends, it's up to you and I to work to raise the bar of Torah Judaism and not to water it down for anyone. And if you're hearing me today and you realize that life in itself means nothing, my friends, I want to welcome you to the belief system that promises its adherents a future that's brighter than tomorrow. So friends, keep Torah and be Jewish. If you're interested in converting to Judaism, please visit Torah Judaism International at torahjudaism.org. And if you're interested in learning more about Judaism, please visit bejewish.org. Thank you.